Another big weekend of racing upon us. We're going to preview some Turfway Park here with 4 stakes races on a very nice Saturday card at Turfway. I'm Gino Bucola alongside my good friend Barry Spears, the sniper. And before we get into our preview of Turfway, I'll let you know a little bit about DRF Newbie. If you have friends that are just getting involved in horse racing, they like to play the races, maybe they don't really want to dive into the past performances yet, it's a little too much for them. If you look at the DRF PPs, this is great. DRF Newbie is a way to start people out. Horse racing simplified, some graphs, some comparisons. You can get some speed ratings there. It's a really nice way to start. Check it out, newbie.drf.com. Use the mobile device when you're discussing that. Barry, my friend, we have a couple tracks opening up right now. Turfway Park just opened about a week or two ago. And this weekend, Oaklawn Park is joining the party. They're going to be opening up. So things are shifting a little bit, but got to give a lot of credit to Turfway. Man, over the last couple of years, they have really, really raised their racing product.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exponentially better than it used to be. Not that it was bad before, but it's just better. And I think you get a lot of buzz around it, especially with the cards during the week. I think you're getting a lot more people playing during the week because it's Turfway, and there's a lot of chaos, a lot of big prices, and it's a lot of fun. Always have a good time playing Turfway.
So we'll talk about the 6th race through the 9th race. There are 4 stakes races there. The wagering menu, I think, is that there's a pick 5 that starts there. Earlier it said a pick 4, but we'll talk about the 4 stakes races for you. And then however you want to play those, you can dive on in. Also, a couple other things to mention before we do. Closing weekend at Woodbine. So DRF will have free PPs all weekend long, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So check out Woodbine, some of the races, see if you can find something Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And no, on Sunday will be mandatory payouts in all the pools. So if you just go to drf.com or you look on the social media pages, we'll be sharing the links for the free PPs for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but most of you are going to be hearing this on Friday for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then don't forget about our friends over at First. They've got a lot of these feeders right now happening. If you're a contest player, $100 feeders for Gulfstream Park, that'll be leading you into the Pegasus World Cup betting challenge. Believe I'll be heading down there to Gulfstream Park again in January. That was my first time down there last year. The first time I got a chance to meet my good friend Barry, and we had a blast. So hopefully we'll be heading back again. But Barry, if that's the case, if I'm heading there in about 6 weeks, I need to make some money, my friend, to travel on over. Let's see if we can connect on a few of these really nice stakes races that will start out in race number 6 at Turfway. So if you want to follow along, we're looking at the Daily Racing Form past performances. We're going to look at race number 6, which is the My Charmer. This one is a mile, and these are all on the synthetic surface there. And these are the fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. These are $250,000 stakes races, and they're new, so they're not graded stakes races. I say yet, because I think in one of the next couple of years, these will become graded stakes races. They're real quality. They're good. And just like the timing at the point of the year, the way Turfways improve their racing, they always have these really big fields. Looking at this one, Barry, we have a nice horse coming down from Woodbine. Caitlin, Her Greatness, actually won the King's Plate back in 2024. She beat the boys in that race, going 1.25 miles on the synthetic, and you can see she's a really nice synthetic horse. She's been in the exacta in 6 of her 7 tries on the synthetic. She's a multiple graded stakes winner. So I think she's a horse you have to start with. They have her at 7-5 on the morning line. Flavian Pratt jumps aboard. Very logical, major contender in there. I think once you move past her, though, she's not unbeatable. As you can see, she has been defeated at some shortish prices. Look at her last 3 races. She's won one of them. She finished second in a couple of the others, but she's vulnerable. I mean, she's not perfect by any way, shape, or form. And other contenders in here, horses like Landed have very good speed for Wesley Ward. I think that one will take some money. I thought towards the outside, the number 9, she's looking lucky, kind of a good measuring stick. She's run well at spots like this on the turf. We'll see if she can transfer that over to the synthetic. How'd you see this race unfold?
Yeah, it's really kind of a dilemma with Caitlin, Her Greatness. 7-5 on the morning line, and I really be hard pressed to find that many. I don't know for sure how many graded stakes there are outside of Woodbine on the synthetic. It can't be that many.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But this horse's body of work, it seems like she would want to go further than this.
I
I,
think
I
so too.
I think that it's kind of a problem, because you see her races that are really under a mile and an eighth. There seems to be a lot more desired
They're
for.
fine. They're
Yeah,
okay, right?
good. I mean, she's very good and she's
She's
capable,
classy.
right, to beat other horses at the distances that she probably isn't best at. Um, like for example, the May 31st race. She wins going away in a grade 3 going a mile on the 16th. First time off the bench. But that field was very weak in
Yep.
comparison to a lot of others that she's going to face in here, including the horse right next to her, Literate.
Yeah.
Um, but taking 7-5 on a horse like that isn't something that I would feel really confident doing. Yes, she's been keeping very good company, but I just think the distance kind of disqualifies her in
From being
this
as much
race.
of a standout.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she could still obviously win this race and could win it somewhat easily. But at 7-5, I definitely want to look elsewhere. Literate is one horse that definitely piques my interest, but the
She beat her a
7,
few starts back.
right? But the 7 Vina Arana seems like
Oh,
the horse on the
yes.
way up. I
That's
like
where I
this horse.
started too. Yep.
That race at Churchill and that allowance race, she really kind of dominated that and ran away from him. And her getting to the synthetic is very, very interesting for this barn as well. They do pretty good job with their synthetic horses. And I think this horse is just on the way up. Might fly a little under the radar, but I don't think 12-1 will get it post time. I would say more like 6, 7, or 8-1. And that's perfectly fine to start off, early in the sequence of a pick 5, pick 4, what have you.
You go through her entire body of work. So her first couple starts, she's going 7 furlongs. She's in big fields. She doesn't run all that poorly, but she's kind of green. She's figuring things out there over at Dundalk. They go a little farther. That mile on the synthetic race in her third start, that was much better. She improved. She showed more early speed in that race. And then the May race in 2024, she's against great Group 3 company. She runs really well that day. She finishes a good third. She's only beaten 3/4 of a length. And she's off till August of 2024. She shows up, she wins, then she's off for 14 months. She shows back up at Keeneland in a race that she needs on October the 10th, has a little bit of trouble that day. That November 22nd race was really good.
Yeah, very,
she
very
was
good.
like 8th of 11 early on. She's about 6 lengths off or so. And she's 3 deep. She makes this big wide move, 5 wide into contention at the top of the lane, and she just explodes late. Third start off the long layoff. It seems like a mile is good for her, and the mile on the synthetic was very good for her in Ireland. I like her a lot in here, Barry. I
Yeah,
chuckled
you have
when you
to think
mentioned
that
her.
she's improved since that grade 3 at Leopardstown.
Absolutely.
Um, so if that's the case, she probably fits very, very well in this spot and will be kind of tough in a sense because of the fact that she's going to have a running style, going to have some targets to run it, and this field isn't overwhelming by any means. Once you get past Caitlin Her Greatness and probably Literate, it's really up for grabs, and I think she's the third best one, at least on paper. But I'm going to upgrade her chances in this spot.
Couple other bigger prices I want to just mention. Right next door, the 8-horse Next Up.
Yes.
She's just look. She looks solid overall. You just kind of look at everything that she's done. She's always punched up, right? She always exceeds her expectations. She's never a horse that's been favored. So she's always kind of outrunning her odds. Last time out, she's in the Valley View. She's 69-1. And she runs really well. She's 4th. She's about two off or so. She briefly takes the lead, and then she gets challenged by a couple others coming from off the pace. I thought she ran really well that day from a wide draw. She's interesting. She's a horse who could outrun her odds a little bit. The 9 is another one that you don't trust on the win end, because you see she's got a lot of those seconds and thirds, but she's very honest. She rarely runs a bad race. And what I like about her is she has some speed, but she can also come from off the pace. She's shown just in her last start some real versatility there. And she lost to a horse named Proctor Street to come right back and win next time out. If you're just looking at speed figures, if she were able to transfer these similar speed figures over to the synthetic, she'd be right there with a lot of this group. So she's a fair price, and she's a little bit interesting. I do agree with Barry that you got to start with the 2. And what do you want to do with Caitlin, her greatness? How are you going to include her? Because she'll be a pretty short price in here. And how is this race going to shape up when you have speed horses like Nana Bush and Landed right next door to each other? Because if either one of the 2 wasn't in here, you might like the other one a little bit more.
Sure.
Because there's not that much. There's a few other horses that could go. Louder Than Words could go. Trial, she's looking lucky. They can show some speed. I do think the 2 quickest are definitely these 2 that are drawn right next to each other. And if one of the 2 doesn't break, if one of the 2 has a different plan, if one of these 2 scratches, that other one could have a major say in this race. I think you and I have talked about Landed before, and I think we were against her at Keeneland back when she was like a really short price one of the times. I think it was October of 2024 when she was favored that day, going a mile and an eighth. And, you know, it's all about price with horses like this and circumstance. Like, I don't want to play a horse like Landed when she's 2-1 or 8-5, but if she is 5 or 6-1 in a race and she's the only speed there, well, that's a different story.
Well,
You know?
I had the idea that Landed is probably going to get bet here.
Yeah,
because
she
of the
usually
fact
does.
because of the fact that Nana Bush, there's totally a possibility that Landed outbreaks Nana Bush
And it's just faster.
pace.
Yep.
Right. And that could spell a lot of trouble for everybody else. But again, if this horse is 3-1, I still probably wouldn't want that.
That's too short for me.
Yeah.
I agree. This is not an easy spot for her too. Like, if you're just comparing this field to the field she's been facing, there are better horses in here than what she's been facing in some of her last couple. So she's going to have to really get that ideal trip. And I just think she's going to be shorter than it sounds like we both want to take on her and like in what we're willing to take. So could she win? Absolutely. But yeah, I think I want more than what she's going to give us here in the My Charmer. $250,000 up for grabs in this 6th race. It's the start of 4 consecutive stakes races, all on the synthetic here and all part of these late exotics. It says a 50 cent pick 5 starts here. So we'll take you through the first 4 of those that are all the stakes races. Barry, anything else you want to mention on this one?
No, I think we got it covered.
Yep, I think so too. Let's move to race number 7. This is the holiday inaugural, $250,000 up for grabs. These are the fillies and mares sprinting on the synthetic. Some that we want to start with. The 2 and the 3 are both interesting horses. They'll take a lot of money from connections. Ellen J for trainer Brad Cox was second in the Grade 2 Presque Isle Masters on the synthetic, the only synthetic race she ran. She was favored in that race. She ran really well to finish second in that race. Pondering, I become a kind of a fan of this gal. I liked her. You know, you just sort of remember horses that you like and you're playing a lot when you're watching. I liked her early in her career. She broke her maiden first time out of the box. I bet her in the Spinway at 5-1. And then she had and then I remember thinking, okay, muddy track. She didn't like it. So I bet her again in the Frisette at 7-2. And then Scottish Lassie absolutely dusted that field that day and won by 9. So then you kind of forget about her, right? Cause you think, okay, she's not the same. She lost the rider in back-to-back races. So she obviously was like having some problems when she came back. She was still sort of mentally putting it all together and figuring things out. But look at when they put her in like to the sprints and they got her in like turf sprints and the blinkers coming on, right? That just changed everything for her. It gave her the focus and they sort of found her niche. And she's just been really good since. The only race you really want to put a line through is when she's behind She's So Spicy in the Music City going 6.5 at Kentucky with a wide draw. There's a lot of horses that just don't like that. Eliminate that race. Everything else has been good. She's very honest. and she just beat Caitlin Her Greatness, who we were just talking about in the last race, and beat Caitlin Her Greatness up at Woodbine, going 7 furlongs, which is actually probably farther than Pondering is even at her best, too. I thought that was a really nice win, and Brendan Walsh has her in great form right now.
Yeah, she's hard to argue with as far as like favoritism or anything like that goes. Uh, but she tends to break slowly,
Yes,
which is
she's the type
concerning.
of horse who, like, I love what you said. I respect her resume, what she's done recently. And Irad's aboard. Brandon Walsh had an awesome last 6-8 months overall, especially in Kentucky. Shout
On
out to
fire still.
Frank, right? Yeah, still rolling. But she seems like the type of horse who I like to play when she's not the favorite, right? She's the type that she's talented, she's good. When she's a shorterish price and then she breaks a little slowly and she's got some stuff to do, like she's probably not the most likely winner of a lot of the races that she's in, even when she wins, because she gives herself some things to do. But again, fantastic form right now. Who are some of the other prices that we're looking at in here, Barry?
Yeah, one last thing about Pondering. I
Please.
think she may have topped out on
That's a
that
good
last.
effort last time out, right?
Yeah, I mean, she beat Caitlin Her Greatness and Love Severe, who were
It's a
very, very
career
good
best for
sprinters.
her, and maybe going even farther than she wants. Did that take a little bit out of her, right? Is she going to be able to fire another big one right back here?
Yeah, it's question marks. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't take lower than 5 to 200, but that's just me. I thought the 7 Civetta was very
Again,
interesting here.
man. Yeah. Say we start here. Yeah.
This horse came back off the layoff, which I I know already that I love when horses, especially young ones, take a break, come back, and they're running faster than they were before the break, and that's what Civetta's doing. Um, it just seems like this horse is primed to get an excellent trip. I think the distance is perfect. I think 5.5 is a little bit short for this horse. Stretching out to 6 makes a whole lot of sense and should get a nice trip, kind of stalking from the outside. Um, didn't have really a chance when going up against She's So Spicy at Churchill,
And that's
and they were
it.
hung out wide. But other than that race,
Like
every other race, they're right there, and at distances this horse probably doesn't even want to go to.
and it's funny when you remember when you're able to watch a horse's full career, which nowadays with this as if you're someone who plays the races just really every weekend, you'll see a lot of these horses grow up through the years, right? And
Oh yeah.
I just remember her whole career from last year early on, she's good. And then at Gulfstream Park, she wins the wait a while. And in the Ginger Brew, remember it feeling like right around then she hit her kind of her peak as far as distances are concerned, like where these other horses kept improving. It felt like she was kind of okay. That's who she is. And she loses to Nitrogen and Love Cervere. I remember we talked about that race. Nitrogen ran well. Love Cervere took the lead that day and just missed. And we were
And she's another one that's kind of distance challenged as well.
Yeah, exactly. And we were a little cold on Civetta for a few races in a row because I just didn't really know going a mile as these other horses started getting a little bit better. And you can see she in the Ginger Brew, the Here Comes the Bride, and the Sanibel Island, 3 races in a row. She didn't run poorly in any of those races, but she didn't really progress. And you could see that a mile and like 7.5, that's too far for her. She just kind of runs around in a circle at those distances, and she doesn't have any late punch. And then you see the Mademoiselle put a line right through it because she's chasing She's So Spicy, and then she needs a few months off. She shows back up, and what do you get? 2 really nice races to set you up for this third start off the bench, gets to the synthetic, where I have no concern with her really from like a surface standpoint. She's been training on the synthetic too, which is really nice over there at Turfway. So, yeah, I mean, I think she's going to fire a big one. I think she's going to be able to sit, 3 or 4 lengths off, not have to be as far back, and she's going to be able to finish too. I really like her in this spot.
Yeah, I think that horse will be able to settle into a really nice spot and give it her best shot, in the stretch. The other one that kind of piqued my interest a little bit is the 4, This Spirit.
Yep.
You see those races last or earlier this year at Turfway in January and March. Those are horses' 2 best races. in the barn of Steve Asmussen, who obviously has won as many races as anybody. In fact, more than
More.
anybody.
Yeah, right.
Um, I think they really like this horse in this spot. The form is a little muddied up. Those last two races, the one at Keeneland, um, I'm not really too sure this is actually a horse.
No.
And then they ran in the Hendry up at Woodbine, and just whatever went wrong went wrong.
Yep. Just put a line right through it.
Right, and I think that actually extends to that other race, to the April 13th race. So whatever went wrong there was still kind of lingering when they went back in July. Then you see this horse show up on the training uh, log at Turfway since October. Steady workouts all the way through, getting a local rider. I think this horse is live, and will probably be higher than 10-1.
Very
Um,
fair price. Yeah.
and both of those races, those two Turfway races from earlier this year, match up very, very well in this spot. And I think this horse might be flying under the radar. As Asmussen doesn't really run a whole lot of horses at Turfway, um, he does have a good enough record on the synthetic to where I think this horse might be a little bit live in this spot.
The horse who I also want to mention, I didn't realize this until kind of glancing back through the race at second and third glance. And it's hard because in a big field, there generally could be a few horses that decide to. But I mean, you look through the field, there's not that much speed in here
Nah,
just
not
on
too much.
paper, right? Like the one doesn't really want to go. Ellen J, I'm thinking they're going to make
She
her
can.
more. And I
Yeah.
think because her last couple, she's been in some trouble and coming from far back, that Pratt's going to try to. But it's not like she's got ones by her name all over the place and she's always on the lead. Pondering, we're talking about coming from off the pace. Sleet Spirit, more from off the pace. She's a Funky Dreamer, has had some trouble getting towards the front end in her last 4 or 5 starts, hasn't really been able to. Uphill Dance is cutting back from races going longer. Savetta isn't going to be on the lead. We're hoping can sit close, wants a target. Got to Brazil, got the lead, just got the lead last time out at Kentucky, but doesn't really have a whole bunch of races when showing speed. Nicest Pie is kind of sitting a little bit. So is Minx Palace. Nikki's Nine Doors. I mean, the 12 horse is drawn to the outside, and she's got to go. She's proven at Turfway. I don't know how good she is overall, but from a pure pace standpoint, can she get the lead in a race where there's not that much early speed in here and a lot of horses who might say, oh, okay, you know what? We'll let her go and get a length on this field. I'm going to throw her in some of my pick 4s and pick 5s, Barry, because if they turn for home and she's got a length on the field, she can get this distance. She's proven over this course. So I want to have her in the mix somewhere.
Yeah, the colder it is, the better for that horse. If the
right.
weather's really freezing out there on Saturday, she's going to be extra live because that track is a visible highway on the front end when it gets cold. And like you said, there's not much in here as far as speed. I would think, obviously you got a top tier rider in Flavin Pratt that's going to sense that. He's going to go.
I think so too. I'm expecting the 2 to sit a lot closer in here.
Yeah, that has to be the plan.
Yeah.
At least get really good position, if not on the lead, right there.
Yep.
And that's probably your best trip. And then beyond that, you have Savetta that's going to be close, but she still doesn't want the lead. I think there's a possibility. There's definitely versions of this race where Girl of My Dreams gets away from him.
The 9 is a Turfway horse, worth mentioning, at least Nicest Pie, horse that just loves the synthetic. She's in solid form right now. And a lot of times, Barry, these horses, they're solid on other surfaces, but if they really do like the synthetic and they come back, they can perk back up. And you were kind of pointing out one of those earlier with the 4 as well. So just worth mentioning some of these horses who really do take to the synthetic surfaces.
Ran good in this race last year.
Yeah.
Or the inaugural. Is this?
Yeah. Yeah. The third, finished third behind Awesome Treat and Bling. It was actually favored in this race last year. So
Awesome Treat. We need another one of those.
Yeah, exactly. That is race number 7. That's the second leg or the second stakes race of 4 consecutive stakes races as we move to race number 8. This one is for the boys going a mile. This is the Prairie Bayou, $250,000 up for grabs. Some of the horses to mention in here, you've got Dresden Rowe, who was a very sharp horse up at Woodbine and comes down looking for synthetic surface, and is a horse who knows Turfway, has previously run at Turfway in this race last year, just miss when finishing second behind Peros. Quattro Centro won a couple turf races back to back, and then has stepped up and faced pretty good company against graded stakes company most recently. So we'll get a little class relief in here. And to the outside, you have Encino, is another horse who really likes synthetic surfaces. Encino, we saw at Turfway Park in 2024 with good success. We saw finishing second in the Kentucky Club Classic earlier in the year at Turfway Park. So, and it's Brad Cox, and Flavian Pratt teaming up from the outside with the horse who has some speed. The outside draw worries me a little bit, but I mean, he showed you in the mile just 2 starts back. He can come from off the pace if he has to.
Yeah, I would say that's not ideal. I mean,
No, and that's not his best trip either.
No, it
Like,
definitely isn't. I saw this horse run at Indiana, Horseshoe in Indianapolis in July, and that I can put an asterisk next to that race because of the fact that I know there was nobody closing on the turf that day at all. And this horse was really close to the pace the whole time and just overtook the leader there, and nobody was even close. There was only 5 horses in that race, and they got a 90 buyer. So I would put that one with a grain of salt. Then the one at Kentucky Downs, or I mean the Ellis Park at the Kentucky Downs preview, Turf Mile. Um, Again, not a big field and just disappointed, honestly. And I think this horse, like you said or alluded to, that this horse is way better on the synthetic, but this post position is really, really rough. I mean, there's some other speeds in here that could get in this horse's way. Um, if they don't clear and get a good spot, I think they're in big trouble.
yeah, he wouldn't surprise me winning. I don't
Right.
have him in my top couple here. I like a
Yeah,
couple others
I would
more.
toss him completely,
Yeah. And
honestly,
it's
for me.
especially if you like some of the other shorter priced horses in the races around this and you're playing pick 4s or pick 5s, I have no problem leaving him out. Where do you want to start?
Well, this was kind of what I would call my opinionless race,
Sure.
because a horse like Cameo Performance, who I like, has the worst running style.
For this, I know. I'm the same way. I want to use
And
him and I like him recently, but
right,
I
and I've seen IRAD make miracles happen in these kind of situations, but not at a short price. And I think this horse is going to get bet.
I agree.
Horsepower is interesting to me, but I'm not sure this horse wants to go this far. Um, it's a real question mark. I
Agree
mean,
on that
I
too.
would like horsepower a lot more if this horse won a race that was longer than 6 furlongs.
Yep.
Um, that's a real concern, especially in that last one in the Artie Schiller. They were well placed. Got beat by a really top-notch horse in Major Dude, um, who coincidentally isn't having his best year either. So I don't know about horsepower, but the one that did interest me is the 9 Otego.
Sure.
Um, Now you got to take a leap of faith here to think that this horse can take to the synthetic. But I believe the distance and this horse's races previously on the turf, like over the summer at Monmouth, this horse was running really, really good. Um, Ran a really bang up second to redistricting, who came out of that race and ran a few nice races.
Yep.
And I think they kind of got out of their element. Went in the Ocean Port where they were clearly overmatched and didn't get it done. Then they go to Kentucky Downs, and that's sort of like a dice roll. Some horses like it, some don't. They were drawn way outside, 3, 4 wide the whole way, and just didn't get any action. Then come back in the Artie Schiller and run pretty good
Yep.
and beat horsepower
And had some trouble.
with some trouble. So, given that fact and what price this horse is, I'm gonna have to use this horse on all my tickets.
Big price for Barry to throw in the mix. I'll mention a couple that are on my radar. The 4 Theismann, I tried to beat him last time out. I remember thinking that in the
Yeah, I
race
did.
that
I
he
did.
was in, there was going to be a lot of other speed that day, and he was just really good.
He's just fast. Yeah.
He just kind of kept going, which surprised me a little bit. And that's now 3 races in a row where he seems like he might have just turned the corner. Like he's a little better than I've been giving him credit for, and I do think he can sit off the pace a bit. He's won at Turfway, and the mile should be no problem for him. So I could see him sitting a little bit and finishing here. I'm gonna use him in some of the Maltese. I'll probably use the 5 as well because I was really worried, Barry, because I had to preview the autumn for DRF and do and I did not like Dresden Rowe at all in the autumn because the thing about him over the last couple years, he's been remarkably consistent. And then he just threw in a real clunker on October the 19th. That was such a head scratcher. And honestly, I think and looking back at it didn't make a lot of sense. It just ended up being a 4-horse field where Paramount Prince got the lead and Dresden Rowe was just out of it early on and nobody else really had a shot. You could just tell it was one of those races. And I had a hard time as a gambler using him last time without seeing the comeback race. But now if I can just eliminate that October 19th race from him, he's pretty honest. And
He's definitely honest. I just have issues with horses cutting back from a mile and eighth to a mile.
yeah, and last
It
year
seems to never work out.
they went a little farther last year too, right? Last year's running of this was a mile and a 16th in the Prairie Bayou, and they're having it at a flat mile this year. So slight change there, and maybe that hinders a horse like Dresden Rowe, who we do see a lot of his races, right, where he's been better, mile and a 16th, some mile and an eighth races. So maybe he does need that little bit more than the flat mile here to show his absolute best.
Yeah, that was my assessment. I just think that he's distanced challenged in this race, not as far as being too far, but just being too short. I'm not really sure what kind of trip they really want or can get, and it doesn't seem like the quote unquote winning trip, because they all have sort of the same style, minus Encino and a couple of others. I think it's going to come down to a lot of jockey positioning and such. Who gets the break, who doesn't, especially when the running gets going on the far turn.
Quattro Centro will take some money. I don't really know what to do with him in here. What about you?
I think that horse might actually be live because of the fact that that horse has some versatility. They don't
Yeah, he doesn't
really
need the lead.
necessarily need the lead, and it's probably better at a mile than any other distance. I think that goes a long way in this field.
Quattro Centro looks like a major player. Barry was mentioning the 9, Togo, as a big price that he's going to be including. We both agree that the 3 fits, but we're worried about the trip. From a class standpoint, fits really well with the group. From a running style standpoint, is this horse going to be too far out of it, have a little bit too much to do here, especially at a flat mile? I give a little nod to Theismann and a little to Dresden Rowe as we finish up with the Prairie Bayou, $250,000 up for grabs. Dresden Rowe was the runner-up in this race last year. We'll see if he can get the job done in this one in 2025. As we finish things out in the holiday cheer, Barry, talk to us about what you've got going on with Chase and the Notorious OTB and the horse racing happy hour with Louie.
Yeah, typically the Notorious OTB is every weekday. We do most of the shows at 9 a.m. Our Thursday show is at 2 p.m. But we're kind of on and off for the holidays and such. But you could usually catch us there. Chase had a couple winners last week, so we got it rolling. And then we do SoCal Saturday on the horse racing happy hour every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And we have a good time over there too. A lot of people kind of shy away sometimes because it's Los Al that's going on right now, but there's definitely some opportunities when you can find them.
And I will say the way that the landscape sort of changed in California with Northern California's horses not like having a place to run and they come down to Southern California, it actually really makes the Los Al meet a lot stronger.
Yeah,
Because a
because
lot,
there's all those horses are in
yep,
races, and you get the big fields of
bigger fields.
5,000,
Absolutely.
$8,000
Yep.
claimers, and it makes for chaos, and you get those big prices. You just
And
gotta
it,
be right on it. I mean, some of those races are really, really tough.
yeah, it's not just like a small field with one big dropper or anything like that. You have a lot of these horses who have been running at the levels that they've been carting, and now they're just more of those races at Los Al. There's a little more opportunities for some of those horses, whereas on a card on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there'd be one race carded for you. Right now, there's between Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you have 4 or 5 different opportunities. Throughout the weekend, those races are just better. I think some of the horses point because they know they can run a couple times in the short meet and just have a much better chance. So take a look at Los Al if you have not been. They also have some of the qualifiers and the feeders to try to get you ready for a big opening day contest at Santa Anita on December the 26th. So Barry, let's close it out. Holiday cheer. I'm getting into the holiday cheer right now. We just took Milo to see the lights last night, some of the Christmas lights around. I've been watching a lot of the Christmas movies. Shout out one of our favorite podcasters out there. You got to check this one out. The Van Lathan over there on the Ringer. They did the Christmas movies draft, which I thought was pretty cool. And they have their 4 categories that they have to hit. Like you have to have like a one that's like a kids movie, one that was like nostalgia. You have to have a black movie, and then you have to have like a music. So they each have. It's so funny. So check that one out too. It's always a blast coming into Christmas time. Give me 1 or 2 of your favorite movies all time, Christmas ones.
Ooh, I mean, A Christmas Story is always
gonna
be my favorite.
Yep.
But I love Christmas Vacation.
Oh yeah, that's
I
where
love
I was literally before you and I started recording. I was listening to a recap podcast. That's a deep dive of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and they were going all through the movie, all through the scenes. That's a classic, and I've mentioned it a few different times. Oh my gosh,
like the sled when he greases up the sled and flies.
And it's very relatable with the holidays. And Chevy's like less goofy than he is in the other few movies. He's more like grounded. You can just sort of relate with him with the stuff that's going on with the family and everything's going wrong.
Oh yeah.
And for me, one that's like a personal favorite I watch every year is The Family Man with Nicolas Cage. It's sort of like
that's a good one.
It's kind of like It's a Wonderful Life, not remake, but like a new age one.
Sure, yeah.
And it's good. So check that one out if you're a fan. Happy holidays to everyone. Hope you have a nice couple weeks coming up with your family. Let's close this out, Barry. Let's make sure these people have a nicer family holiday memories coming up with some more money that we can put in their pockets if we get them a few winners in these stakes. This is the holiday cheer, 250,000 up for grabs. So these are the boys sprinting now. We have the girls going a mile, we have the girls sprinting, and then we have the boys going a mile, and we have the boys sprinting. From just a starting the conversation standpoint, Howard Wolowitz won this race last year. He's a grade 1 winner. He's very, very nice. I actually spoke with trainer Jose D'Angelo about him not long ago, and he had said this is the plan for a while. He had been pointing for this race, and they were expecting him to run a big one. I talked to him just a few weeks ago, and he was training really, really well at that point. So that's kind of where you start with last year's winner, who's a grade 1 winner. But Barry, anytime my guy's around, I got to give a shout out to Roll On Big Joe.
Yes.
He's actually cross-entered this weekend here and at Oaklawn Park. February the 15th, Roll On Big Joe won the Palos Verdes, closed out that coast-to-coast pick 5 for me that paid a shade under 12 grand. I get the good feels anytime I can think about Joe and talk about him. I could use some of those good feels right now. And, man, he's really honest, and wherever he shows up this weekend, coming off his 103 buyer, he's going to be a player. I mean, he's going to take money and be a factor. And he's a horse who has speed and he can sit a little bit. Those are 2 of the top contenders in here.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Roll On Big Joe runs here, but
and not at Oaklawn.
Yeah,
he's 2-1 at Oaklawn, and it's probably a softer spot at Oaklawn. It's not an easy spot, but he's the horse to beat, I think, in that race at Oaklawn.
Yeah, I would gather he would go there, but like you said, you got to start with Howard Wolowitz, and you might have to end with Howard Wolowitz.
A big bang, right?
Yeah, because that horse ran a pretty good race in that turf mile.
He did.
and it was just too far. That's just not his bag. He wants to sprint. He's back on the synthetic where he's probably most comfortable, and I can't see anybody getting close to him. Even the horse he beat last year um, in this race, Run Carson, hasn't been the same since. He
I
may
think
have
he's
just, I think he just ran that horse off his feet and kind of snatched his heart like Indiana Jones style. And I really can't see anybody running with that horse. Even No Balls, who is a shade of his former self, seems to be kind of perking up again, but I can't trust that horse in this spot.
nah. I hate to kind of say it, but I kind of agree with you. Like I have
I,
it just in
I'm
that
not a
like
chalk guy, but
no, but
it's
in this
tough.
sense, the way that I mapped it out, I had 3 and 7 on a top tier in this race, and I think the 7's going to be out. I think Joe's going to go run at like I thought those were the two because I was wondering could Joe sit in front of Howard and maybe get the jump on him or something like that. But I do agree. I think if I was picking which race I would run in if I were roll on Big Joe, it would probably be the race at Oaklawn Park. So he runs there, you take him out. All of a sudden, that's the second choice in this race. So now the 5-2 on Howard Wallowitz becomes, 8-5, 7-5, and he's going to be probably even money in this race. And then look at the horses who are in that next tier. I mean, he handled Run Carson pretty easily. I completely agree with you about No Balls, who's classy. He was your former Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint winner. He's won at Turfway before. I think he's just not quite as sharp as he was before. He's not quite as good. Could he still win the race? Sure.
Yeah.
I don't think he's quite the same as he once was. I wanted to make cases for like the 6. I think, and he can get 6 furlongs, but he needs a real trip. Like he needs things to go really, really fast up front.
Yeah.
And so the horses I like a little bit, I were hemming and hawing with, and I do. It just feels like a really good spot again for Howard when they've been pointing
Yeah.
to.
I mean, there's 2 horses I would give a shot to. The 4 out on bail.
Yep.
And again, this is taking the leap of faith that this horse is going to take to the synthetic,
Yep.
which I think they might. I mean, this horse might have the pedigree for
Yeah, he's
that
very
sort of thing.
honest.
And he shows up, doesn't quite need the lead, needs a little bit of a target. But that last race really spells some improvement. And I think this horse is another one that's on the way up. The next would be Arrest Me Red. Ran well every time on the synthetic, and I don't think that's going to not continue here. It's just a matter of price with this horse. I think Wesley Ward Machado may attract some attention, and this horse might get bet down a little bit lower than I would want to see.
Yeah, I mean the way that you mapped the race out was very similar to me. I have 3, 7 as the top tier. My next tier of horses were 5, 2, 4, and 6, who we just spoke about. And I just kind of trying to figure out what I want to do with them. I'll probably end up playing one ticket where I'm singling Howard. That'll probably be my bigger ticket, especially if Joe is out of this race. And then I will play another ticket where I come back and maybe single one of the horses in the other races that we talked about, use a couple of these other. But I think the bulk of my bankroll in the sequence, if I'm playing whatever pick 4s, pick 5s, will probably be with Howard Wallowitz singled. I think for the most part.
Yeah, I was kind of leaning the same way, which doesn't spell good for our price.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a bummer, but it is the type of sequence where if you're playing it with the few races before this and after, there are a lot of prices to be found.
Yeah, there's chaos
around it.
Yeah,
and just remember that. So if you're going to play that, like how Barry and I may, where we are probably going to be locked into Howard Wallowitz, then at 1 or 2 of the other races, you got to chuck the short prices out. And you just got to not play your ticket to be chalk, right? You just have to know that one of the races, if I win, it's going to be short. So let's take some swings in a few of the others. And we talked about how maybe the race against Encino, we don't include him and we use a few others. So it's all about ticket structure. It's all about putting your wagers together. See if Howard Wallowitz can close things out. If you want to hear more from trainer Jose D'Angelo, you can actually check out the Off the Track podcast over on the Daily Racing Form YouTube or anywhere where you get your podcasts. Some great guests recently were Jose D'Angelo. We had Dave Weaver, ice cold, told us a really fun Vegas story. Trainer Graham Motion was a blast to talk to. It was my first real conversation with Graham. Randy Moss was awesome. He talked with us about all the different years of covering the races, getting confused for the other Randy Moss, the NFL Randy Moss. We talked about that story. That was a blast.
That was funny.
And then the most recent one I just did was Jake Delhomme, quarterback, a former quarterback for the Panthers. He owns Touch Upon a Star, who's running this weekend at Fairgrounds, one of the best Louisiana breds in history. That horse beat Sierra Leone earlier in the year, is a great stakes winner, and is awesome Louisiana bred. And it was so cool to talk with Jake about, being a great quarterback in high school, college, going to NFL Europe, then, trying out kind of for a few different teams who he was going to maybe work out for. And then he gets to the call, to Carolina, where he feels like he's
still could get the call right now.
Right? Like Phillip Rivers just got the call the other day, not long ago.
Exactly. I'm waiting. My phone's waiting. I'm waiting.
I was going to say, you got to stay ready all the time, right, man? You got to stay ready. Barry, my friend, that's why you and I get along well, because you're always ready. I just give you the call real quick. Boom.
What
are we going to do? You need it? Let me know. Boom. That's the Barry bat signal. Boom, boom. My friend, looking forward to a fun weekend of racing. Good luck to all of you out there. Don't forget, anytime you need any extra help, go over to the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. David Aragona, Mike Beer, Scott Shapiro, Ashley Mayu. Lots of great previews, different races that we cover. Preview all the big stakes races, sequences. Check that out over on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. And don't forget, anytime you need help playing the races, ask DRFAI. You can use the QR code right there, or go to DRFAI. Check that all out. For Barry, I'm Gino. Good luck, everyone. Thanks so much for hanging out with us.